My presentation today is titled The South Island of New Zealand, a land of unrivaled beauty and adventure. We will examine the early history of New Zealand from settlement to dominion status. We will also examine the South Island's outstanding natural beauty, key places of interest, along with significant events from a geological and geographical viewpoint. Prepare to be captivated by a landscape sculpted by millennia of geological forces, where towering snow-capped mountains meet dramatic fjords, ancient glaciers carve through lush rainforests, and crystal-clear lakes reflect pristine skies. From the adrenaline-pumping activities of Queenstown to the serene beauty of Milford Sound, the South Island offers an unparalleled blend of natural wonders and thrilling experiences. Join me as we explore what makes this extraordinary island a must-visit destination for adventurers, nature lovers, and anyone seeking to be truly awestruck. New Zealand history, from settlement to dominion. Archaeological and recent scientific evidence suggests that Maori first discovered and settled in New Zealand sometime between the years 1180 and 1320 from Polynesia. These were deliberate voyages of discovery, navigating by ocean currents, the winds, and the stars. The Maori ancestors came from East Polynesia, specifically believed to be from an island or group of islands in Polynesia known as Hawaii, a traditional homeland in Maori oral traditions. They traveled in large, double-hulled voyaging canoes known as waka hōrua, bringing with them essential plants like sweet potato, taro, and yams, as well as Polynesian dogs and rats. Maori oral traditions speak of a legendary navigator named Kupe, who is credited by many tribes as being the first to discover the islands of New Zealand. His voyages are often linked to specific place names across the country. Legend has it that Kupe made landfall at the Hokianga Harbour in Northland around the year 1180 to 1320. The Polynesian settlers developed a distinct Maori culture, adapting to the unique environment of Aotearoa, the Maori name for New Zealand, meaning land of the long white cloud. They became expert hunters, gatherers, and cultivators, developing sophisticated techniques for living off the land and sea. The large statue of Kupe, the legendary Polynesian navigator shown here, is located on the Wellington waterfront. The first European to sight New Zealand was the Dutch explorer Abel Tasman. In 1642, he was on an expedition for the Dutch East India Company, searching for a great southern continent. He sighted the west coast of the South Island, but after a violent encounter with Maori in what he called Murderer's Bay, now Golden Bay, he did not go ashore and left without fully exploring or mapping the country. He named the land Staten Land, which Dutch map makers later changed to New Zealand, or New Zealand in English. Tasman was best known for his voyages of 1642 and 1644 in the service of the Dutch East India Company. On a side note, Abel Tasman himself did not name Tasmania after himself. When he sighted the island in 1642, he named it Anthony van Diemen's Land, in English Anthony van Diemen's Land, in honor of his sponsor, who was the Governor-General of the Dutch East Indies. The name was later shortened by the British to Van Diemen's Land. It was much later, on January 1, 1856, that the island was officially renamed Tasmania in honor of its first European discoverer, Abel Tasman. This change was partly to shed the association with the island's convict past, as Van Diemen's Land was a major penal colony, and to acknowledge Tasman's significant explorations. The Dutch East India Company, formerly known as the Verenigde Oost-Indische Compagnie, VOC, was one of the most powerful and influential trading companies in history. aka the Dutch East India Company, often regarded as the world's first multinational corporation. Established on March the 20th, 1602, by the Dutch government, the VOC was a merger of several smaller Dutch trading companies. Its primary goal was to eliminate fierce competition among these companies and secure a monopoly on the lucrative spice trade in the East Indies, present-day Indonesia. Spices like pepper, nutmeg, cloves, and cinnamon were incredibly valuable in Europe. The VOC was far more than just a trading company. It was granted an extraordinary 21-year charter by the Dutch government that endowed it with quasi-governmental powers, including the right to wage war and raise armies. It maintained its own private army and navy, instrumental in protecting its trade routes and enforcing its dominance over local populations. It was empowered to negotiate treaties and establish colonies. This allowed it to expand its territorial control, especially in the Indonesian archipelago and the Cape of Good Hope, South Africa, which served as a crucial resupply point for its ships. Furthermore, it was permitted to mint its own currency, thus further cementing its independent operation. Europeans did not revisit New Zealand until 1769, when James Cook, a British explorer, navigator and cartographer, and captain in the British Royal Navy, who played a significant role in the European exploration of the Pacific, including New Zealand. Famous for his 3 voyages between 1768 and 1779 in the Pacific Ocean and to New Zealand and Australia in particular. First recorded European contact with the eastern coastline of Australia and the Hawaiian Islands. His extensive charting proved that New Zealand consisted of 2 main islands, the North and the South Island, dispelling the contemporary belief that it might be part of a larger southern continent. He circumnavigated both islands, making detailed maps that were remarkably accurate for their time. This graphic shows the 3 major voyages of exploration that Cook undertook across the Pacific Ocean, significantly impacting European understanding of the region. His voyages, spanning from 1768 to 1779, led to the mapping of New Zealand and the eastern coast of Australia, the discovery of numerous islands and archipelagos, and the establishment of British presence in the Pacific. As a matter of interest, Cook was attacked and killed in 1779 during his 3rd exploratory voyage in the Pacific. He was attempting to kidnap the ruling chief of the island of Hawaii, Hikalani Opu'u, in order to reclaim a cutter taken from one of his ships after his crew took wood from a burial ground. Following Cook, New Zealand was visited by numerous European and North American whaling, sealing, and trading ships. The most important of these other explorers was Frenchman Jules Sébastien César Dumont d'Urville. He sailed through the dangerous French pass in the Marlborough Sounds and investigated the east coast of the North Island. The Musket Wars were a series of widespread and devastating intertribal conflicts among Maori in New Zealand, predominantly occurring between 1807 and 1837. These wars were fundamentally transformed by the introduction of muskets, long-barreled, muzzle-loading guns by European traders. The Maori first obtained muskets and then engaged in an intertribal arms race in order to gain territory or seek revenge for past defeats. Maori society had a long-standing tradition of warfare based on tribal rivalries and the concept of utu, which demanded reciprocation for slights or defeats. The introduction of muskets dramatically escalated the scale and lethality of these conflicts. European participation was largely confined to the supply of weapons only. The battles resulted in the deaths of between 20,000 and 40,000 people and the enslavement of tens of thousands of Maori, and significantly altered the tribal boundaries. From the early 19th century, Christian missionaries began to settle New Zealand, eventually converting most of the Maori population. The Maori population declined to around 40% of its pre-contact level during the 19th century. Introduced diseases were the major factor in their decline. When Britain annexed New Zealand in 1840, the South Island briefly became a part of New South Wales, Australia. This annexation was in response to France's attempts to colonise the South Island at Akaroa, and the New Zealand Company attempts to establish a separate colony in Wellington. Lieutenant Governor William Hobson declared British sovereignty over all of New Zealand on 21st May 1840. The North Island by treaty and the South by discovery. Let's move on from the history of settlement to dominion status and look at key events that shaped New Zealand's history. New Zealand's founding document, known as the Treaty of Waitangi, is an agreement between the British Crown and 540 Maori rangatira, aka chiefs. This day is now a national holiday known as Waitangi Day. Historically, this was a controversial document because the Maori and English versions stipulated different things about land ownership rights and sovereignty. In present times, the Treaty of Waitangi is a living document that continues to shape the relationship between the Crown and Maori, influencing New Zealand's constitutional framework, legal system, and social landscape. A number of moments shaped the country thereafter. The first key event were the Maori Wars of 1845 to 1872. The New Zealand Wars took place between the New Zealand colonial government and allied Maori on one side, and Maori allied settlers on the other. The most significant driver of conflict was the insatiable hunger for land by European settlers. The wars were initially localized conflicts triggered by tensions over disputed land purchases. Escalated dramatically from 1860 as the government was facing united Maori resistance to further land sales and a refusal to acknowledge Crown sovereignty. The colonial government summoned thousands of British troops to mount major campaigns to overpower the Maori movement. At the peak of hostilities in the 1860s, 18,000 British Army troops, supported by artillery, cavalry, and local militia, battled about 4,000 Maori warriors in what became an imbalance of manpower and weaponry. I'll continue with more events that shaped New Zealand's history during my talk about the North Island. The South Island is the largest of the two main islands of New Zealand. It has an area of 58,093 square miles, making it the 12th largest island in the world. The west coast is lined by the Southern Alps mountain ranges, with Aoraki Mount Cook being the highest point at 12,118 feet above sea level. As of the 2018 census, the South Island held a resident population of approximately 1.2 million. Mountainous terrain occupies almost 3/4 of South Island, with a central mountain chain known as the Southern Alps. The Southern Alps separate the narrow coastal strip of the Westland Plain from the broad Canterbury Plains to the east. Fiordland National Park, located in the southwest of New Zealand's South Island and circled in red on the map, is a vast and stunning wilderness renowned for its dramatic landscapes, glacier-carved fjords, lush rainforests, and unique wildlife. Let's take a more detailed look at Milford Sound. Milford Sound, or its Maori name Piopiotahi, is a stunning fjord located in the southwest of New Zealand's South Island within the vast Fiordland National Park. It's often referred to as the eighth wonder of the world due to its dramatic natural beauty. The term sound may be confusing due to its dual meaning. The Milford Sound is a fjord carved by glaciers over millions of years during the Ice Age, not the other type of sound, which is a river valley drowned by the sea. The sound is famous for its sheer granite cliffs rising dramatically from the water, most notably Mitre Peak, which soars 5,500 feet directly from the seafloor and is one of the tallest coastal peaks in the world. Mitre Peak, known as Rahotu in Maori, is arguably the most iconic and photographed mountain in New Zealand, standing majestically at the heart of Milford Sound. Its dramatic presence is truly a sight to behold. While it appears as a single sharply pointed peak, from most viewpoints Mitre Peak is actually a closely grouped set of 5 individual peaks. The name Mitre Peak comes from its resemblance to a bishop's mitre, a tall, pointed ceremonial headdress. Milford Sound is renowned for its numerous waterfalls, both permanent and temporary. 2 of the most iconic permanent falls are Bowen Falls, 531 feet high, and Stirling Falls at 479 feet high. After it rains, which is often, hundreds of temporary waterfalls cascade down the rocky faces, creating an even more spectacular sight. Oban is the principal and only town on Stewart Island, New Zealand's southernmost inhabited island. It's a small, charming settlement centered on Half Moon Bay, with a population of around 370 people as of June 2024. The town was named after Oban in Scotland, reflecting the strong influence of Scottish settlers in early colonial southern New Zealand. Oban serves as the main entry point to Stewart Island. Regular ferry services connect it with Bluff on the South Island. The island's Maori name, Rakiura, is often translated as glowing skies, a reference to the aurora australis, southern lights, which can be seen from the island. The island also has a rich Maori history, with settlements dating back to the 13th century. Stewart Island was not subjected to intense faulting along the Alpine Fault, exhibits very limited glacial features, no volcanism younger than 66 million years. Queenstown, nestled on the shores of Lake Wakatipu and surrounded by the majestic Southern Alps, is without a doubt New Zealand's adventure capital of the world. This vibrant town on the South Island offers an incredible array of activities for every type of traveller, set against a backdrop of truly breathtaking scenery. The Queenstown Lakes District has an estimated resident population of around 52,400 as of 2024, but this number swells significantly with a constant influx of visitors. The town is built around an inlet called Queenstown Bay on Lake Wakatipu, a long, thin Z-shaped lake formed by glacial processes. The nearest cities are Dunedin and Invercargill. The discovery of gold in the Shotover River in 1862 transformed the quiet settlement into a booming gold mining town. The name Queenstown is said to have originated from miners declaring it fit for Queen Victoria. Views of nearby mountains such as the Remarkables, Cecil Peak, Walter Peak, and just above the town, Ben Lomond and Queenstown Hill. The Queenstown Lakes District has a land area of 3,261 square miles, not counting its inland lakes Hawea, Wakatipu, and Wanaka. After the gold rush faded, Queenstown transitioned into a tourism destination. It truly cemented its adventure capital status with the development of commercial jet boating in 1958 and the world's first commercial bungee jump in 1988. Maori Paunamu, also known as nephrite, is a precious mineral. Maoris found nephrite in streams as placer deposits and as larger boulders throughout the South Island. Nephrite is one of 2 distinct mineral species that are commonly known as jade. The other is jadeite. While they share the common name jade and have been used interchangeably for centuries, they are chemically and structurally different. Nephrite typically ranges in color from creamy white known as mutton fat, jade, to various shades of green from pale to deep olive, sometimes called spinach jade, as well as brown, grey and black. Treasured, valuable and with spiritual significance, Paunamu is New Zealand's highly prized stone. It has been used by Maori to denote status and authority, for adornment and for making peace. Nephrite is a calcium iron magnesium silicate found in ophiolite oceanic uplift crust. An ophiolite is a unique and incredibly valuable geological feature. It's a section of Earth's oceanic crust and the underlying upper mantle that has been uplifted and exposed on land. Normally, oceanic crust is formed at mid-ocean ridges and then over millions of years cools, becomes denser, and eventually gets recycled back into the mantle through a process called subduction, where one tectonic plate slides beneath another. Because of this, it's very rare to find oceanic crust and mantle rocks accessible on continents. Let's turn our attention to the Dunedin area, where early Maori occupation started in the 13th to 17th centuries. Archaeological evidence indicates that Maori first arrived in the wider Dunedin area within decades of their initial arrival in New Zealand, roughly between 1280 and 1320 AD. These early populations primarily concentrated along the southern coast, heavily relying on moa, a now extinct flightless bird, and seals for their food source. Many moa butchery sites have been uncovered across the Otago Peninsula. Maori tradition speaks of ancient peoples like Waitaha, followed by Kati Mamoe, who arrived in the late 16th century. From about the mid-17th century, the Kai Tahu tribe began migrating south from the North Island, eventually becoming the dominant tribe in the Otago region. These migrations involved intermarriage and, at times, conflict with existing groups. Two ships sailed from the UK in November 1847, arriving in Dunedin, or more accurately, Port Chalmers, in March and April 1848, respectively. On 23rd of March 1848, the first ship, the John Wycliffe, with 97 passengers, arrived, marking the beginning of Scottish settlement in the province. The Philip Lang, with 247 passengers, arrived 3 weeks later. On board the John Wycliffe was Captain William Cargill, a veteran of the Napoleonic Wars. He was the secular leader of the new colony and the Otago settlement founder. These Scottish immigrants established their settlement in 1848 under the auspices of the Lay Association of the Free Church of Scotland. For a couple of years, Dunedin's population languished until a Scot called John Buchanan found gold in Otago's rivers in the late 1850s. Born in Scotland, he emigrated to Dunedin in 1852. Initially, he worked as a survey assistant and also engaged in gold prospecting during the Otago Gold Rush. Gabriel Reed's more famous discovery was a significant gold find on May 25, 1861, at Gabriel's Gully near Lawrence in southeast Otago. Word got out even without Facebook and Twitter, and by December, between 4,000 and 5,000 prospectors descended on Gabriel's Gully near what is today known as the town of Lawrence. This discovery, where he reportedly saw the gold shining like the stars in Orion on a dark, frosty night, was widely publicized and triggered New Zealand's first major gold rush, transforming Otago into the wealthiest and most populated province. While John Buchanan had found gold in Otago rivers earlier, Gabriel Reed's discovery led to a massive influx of prospectors and established gold mining as a major industry. Otago's population soared by 80% between 1861 and 1864, and Dunedin became New Zealand's largest city. The gold rush lasted only until about 1870, but it was the key contributor to Dunedin's prosperity, growth, and immigration. The harbour and hills around Dunedin are the remnants of an extinct volcano. The Dunedin volcano was active between 16 and 10 million years ago. Volcanic activity continued during 6 million years, mainly in the Portobello and Port Chalmers area. Satellite vents were found as far away as 60 miles from Dunedin in East Otago. Here is a picture of Te Aroa Head, a volcano on the Otago Peninsula. The top map shows the geographical location of the towns and harbour. The lower map depicts the Dunedin volcanic group. Evidence of the volcano's remnants can be seen in the hills around the harbour, including Mount Cargill, Dunedin's highest peak. A striking feature of Mount Cargill is its pentagonal basalt columns. Other notable remnants are Flagstaff and Signal Hill, both offering spectacular views, and the magnificent Otago Peninsula itself. Traces of the old Dunedin volcano can be seen along the Dunedin Botanic Gardens volcano trail. Dunedin's name comes from Dún Éideann, the Scottish Gaelic name for Edinburgh, the capital of Scotland. The railway station is an iconic landmark, renowned for its opulent architecture and historical significance. The station is primarily described as Edwardian Baroque, with strong influences of Flemish Renaissance style. This gives it a grand, almost gingerbread house appearance. It's constructed from dark basalt rock from Kokonga in central Otago with contrasting white Oamaru limestone facings and trim, creating a striking light and dark pattern. The roof is clad with Marseille's tiles. Some pillars on the Anzac Avenue facade even feature imported Scottish granite. While it was once New Zealand's busiest station with numerous daily intercity and suburban services, its primary function now is as a hub for tourist and scenic rail journeys. Best view in all of Dunedin is from the top of Signal Hill. This 1,289-foot forested promontory rises high above Dunedin Harbour, where you'll get an expansive bird's-eye view of the entire city of Dunedin sprawling beneath you. You can clearly see the city's distinctive hilly terrain, the central octagon, and its charming architecture. The beautiful, tranquil waters of Otago Harbour are a prominent feature of the view, winding its way out to the open sea. You can often see boats and the various suburbs nestled along its edges. Beyond the city and harbour, the rugged and scenic Otago Peninsula stretches out with its rolling green hills, dramatic coastline, and the distant Pacific Ocean. On a clear day, you might even be able to spot Larnach Castle on the peninsula. Here is a little New Zealand trivia. Dunedin has the steepest road in the world. According to the Guinness Book of Records, the steepest street in the world is Baldwin Street, with a slope of 19 degrees. Can you imagine what it must be like to live at the top? The Moeraki boulders are a geological marvel found on Koikohe Beach on the Otago coast between the towns of Moeraki and Hampton. They are truly one of New Zealand's most unique and captivating natural attractions. They range in size from around 1.6 feet to an impressive 7.2 feet in diameter, with some weighing several tons. Their surfaces are often smooth, but many display intricate patterns of cracks or veins, giving them a somewhat turtle shell or honeycomb appearance when broken or weathered. The formation of the Moeraki boulders began about 60 million years ago during the Paleocene epoch, when the area was covered by a shallow sea. They started as tiny fragments, like a shell, plant material, or even a bone particle on the seafloor. Over millions of years, minerals, primarily calcite, calcium carbonate, slowly precipitated and cemented around these fragments, layer by layer. This process is similar to how a pearl forms around an irritant. The spherical shape is thought to be due to the even diffusion of calcium from the surrounding marine mud into the growing concretion. After their formation, the land was uplifted, and the softer mudstone that encased the boulders began to erode away due to the relentless action of waves and wind. Because the boulders are much harder and more resistant than the surrounding mudstone, they are left exposed on the beach. New boulders are continually being revealed as the cliffs behind the beach continue to erode. The internal cracks, septaria, that radiate outwards from the core were formed after the initial concretion. These cracks were later filled with more calcite crystals, creating the distinctive patterns visible on some of the boulders. Moving up the coast, we come to Oamaru on the Otago coast. This town boasts the country's oldest public gardens, renowned Victorian architecture, and 2 penguin colonies. Oamaru, built between rolling hills of limestone and a short stretch of flat land to the sea. This limestone rock is used for the construction of local Oamaru stone, sometimes referred to as white stone buildings. Many public buildings use as their construction material the local limestone quarried especially near Weston and known as Oamaru stone. The Victorian precinct in southern part of Oamaru's main commercial district ranks as one of New Zealand's most impressive streetscapes due to the many prominent 19th century buildings constructed from this material. Several key historic buildings in the area centered around Harbour Street and the Lower Thames Street. Itchen Street and Tyne Street have been preserved by the Oamaru Whitestone Civic Trust as part of a historic precinct. The Great Palladian St. Patrick's Basilica is also a fine example in white Oamaru stone. Timaru is a port city located on the eastern Pacific coast of the South Island in the southern Canterbury region. It's roughly halfway between Christchurch and Dunedin. The city centre boasts some impressive Edwardian buildings, reflecting its prosperity in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Caroline Bay is Timaru's most famous natural feature, a beautiful sandy beach and popular recreational area just north of the port. It's known to a colony of the world's smallest penguins. You can often see them returning to their nests at dusk, particularly during the breeding season, October to March. There are designated viewing areas to protect them. Mount Cook National Park is New Zealand's premier alpine destination, a spectacular landscape of towering peaks, vast glaciers, and vivid turquoise lakes. It's truly a jewel in the crown of the South Island. Mount Cook is the park's namesake and New Zealand's highest mountain, standing at 12,218 feet. Its Maori name, Aoraki, which translates to cloud piercer, a fitting description for its majestic height. It's a central feature of the Southern Alps, a mountain range that runs the length of the South Island. The waters of Lake Tekapo display such striking electric blue colors because of glacial silt flowing into the lake, carried by the braided Godley and Macaulay rivers seen at the bottom of the image. The active glaciers slowly bulldoze the mountainsides. They pulverize rocks along valley floors and walls. All that grinding eventually produces a fine-grained powder of silt, sometimes called glacial flour. Meltwater picks up the silt, carrying it downstream and into lakes like Tekapo. The particles are so light and fine, they're slow to sink to the bottom, remaining suspended in the water column instead. These rivers are themselves fed by the melted waters of glaciers in the nearby Southern Alps. Mount Horrible, also known as Wapori in Maori, is a significant geological feature that has profoundly shaped the landscape and identity of Timaru. Despite its somewhat dramatic name, it's an extinct volcano. It represents the youngest episode of volcanism in the South Island, with its last eruption occurring approximately 2 million years ago. Rather than a typical cone-shaped volcano, Mount Horrible was likely more like a line of fissures. It produced extensive basaltic lava flows that flowed like fingers down the sloping plains to what is now the coast of Timaru. Unusually for volcanic systems, the eruption of Mount Horrible is believed to have been a single large event after which volcanic activity ceased. This makes it a unique opportunity for geologists to study magma generation and ascent dynamics. These ancient lava flows are directly responsible for the rolling hills upon which Timaru is built, contrasting with the flat Canterbury Plains to the north. They also form the natural reefs and parts of the coastline, including those that influence the development of Timaru's port and Caroline Bay. Timaru has been built on rolling hills created from the lava flows of the extinct Mount Horrible volcano. The result is that most of the main streets are undulating, a clear contrast with the flat landscape of the Canterbury Plains to the north. This volcanic rock is used for the construction of local bluestone buildings. Dashing Rocks is a prominent coastal landmark in Timaru, famous for its striking basalt outcrops. These rocks are a direct testament to the ancient volcanic activity of Mount Horrible, which, as I previously mentioned, is the most recent volcanic event in the South Island. One of the most visually impressive features of the Dashing Rocks basalt is its columnar jointing. As the thick lava flows cooled evenly, they contracted and cracked in regular geometric shapes, often forming hexagonal six-sided columns. On top of the basalt at Dashing Rocks, you'll often see layers of Lewis, which is a fine wind-blown silt that was deposited during the last ice age around 9,000 to 11,000 years ago. John Hardcastle was a significant figure in Timaru, primarily known for his work as a journalist and a pioneering amateur scientist, particularly in the field of geology. His most important contributions were in geology, specifically his studies of the Lewis deposits in and around Timaru. He recognized that the Lewis wind-blown silt in Timaru was formed during glacial periods and that the different layers of Lewis indicated multiple periods of cold climate. This was groundbreaking work at the time, late 1880s, early 1890s, as it was one of the first times such inferences about past climates were made based on Lewis stratigraphy. He is credited with the invention of Lewis stratigraphy and the concept of Lewis acting as a climate register, a field now known as paleoclimatology. His work was largely overlooked for many decades, but has since been recognized internationally as highly significant. Omarama, located in the Mackenzie Basin, is renowned for its unique and dramatic rock formations, most notably the clay cliffs. These are a must-see for anyone interested in geology or seeking striking natural landscapes. The clay cliffs are situated about 10 kilometers west of Omarama Township, accessible via Quailburn Road and then the unsealed Henburn Road. Note that they are on private land and there's usually a small honesty box fee, say $5 per car, for entry, which helps with track maintenance. The cliffs are made up of layers of gravel and silt. These sediments were deposited by ancient rivers flowing from glaciers that existed 1 to 2 million years ago during the late Miocene to Pliocene epochs. They are part of what geologists call the Hawk-Dunn group of sediments. The region is cut by the Osler Fault, an active fault line. Over millions of years, the movement along this fault caused the land, and thus these deposited layers of gravel and silt, to be uplifted and tilted. You can clearly see the sloping bands, strata, in the cliffs, which were once horizontal. The pancake rocks at Punakaiki, on the west coast of the South Island, are one of the country's most iconic and unique geological attractions. They're part of the Paparoa National Park and are famed for their distinctive layered appearance and the spectacular blowholes. The formation of the famous pancake rocks began during the Tertiary period. Carbonate-rich fragments of marine plant and animal skeletons were deposited on the seabed some 30 million years ago. The resultant alternating layers of hard and soft limestone and mudstone were eventually solidified and raised above sea level during tectonic uplift of the area. Wind, rain, and acidic waters carved today's formations out of the solid rock, giving the appearance of stacked pancakes. Over time, their erosion created vertical and horizontal blowholes in the formations. The rocks are especially impressive during high tide when the sea bursts through the holes. The 2016 Kaikoura earthquake was a complex and powerful event that struck the South Island just after midnight on November 14, 2016. It had a magnitude of 7.8 and is considered one of the most complex earthquakes ever studied due to its multi-fault rupture. It was not a single fault rupture, but a complex sequence involving at least 12 major faults and 9 lesser faults, some previously unknown. This unzipping of the Earth stretched for approximately 100 miles along the South Island's northeast coast, lasting for nearly 2 minutes. This multi-fault rupture is believed to be a world record for the number of faults rupturing during a single earthquake. A significant and highly variable coastal uplift occurred along 70 miles of coastline, ranging from 3 to 20 feet. The Kaikoura Peninsula and much of the surrounding coastline were uplifted by 2 to 4 feet. This uplift dramatically altered the coastline and seafloor, exposing vast areas of intertidal and subtidal rocky reef. Picton is a picturesque and vital town located at the head of Picton Harbour in the Queen Charlotte Sound at the top of the South Island. This area is often called the gateway to the Marlborough Sounds, a stunning network of drowned river valleys offering incredible scenery, marine life, and outdoor activities. Picton is most famous as the major ferry terminal connecting the North and South Islands via the Cook Strait. This makes Picton a critical transport link for passengers, vehicles, and goods. The ferry journey itself through Queen Charlotte Sound is renowned for its beauty. The Marlborough Sounds are classic examples of rias, or drowned river valleys. Their formation involved a combination of geological processes. Firstly, stream incision and dissection, when millions of years ago rivers carved out deep valleys and ridges in the landscape. Secondly, we had tectonic tilting and subsidence, when the landmass in this region had been slowly tilting and sinking towards the northeast due to tectonic activity associated with the subducting Pacific plate. Finally, we had post-glacial sea level rise. At the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 years ago, global sea levels rose significantly, flooding these already subsided valleys. The main channels of the Marlborough Sounds have calm water and are popular for sailing. The Cook Strait between the South and North Islands, however, is infamous for its strong currents and rough waters, especially when the wind is from the south or north. The most notable shipwreck in the Sounds is that of the Russian cruise liner MS Mikhail Lermontov, which sank in 1986 in Port Gore, close to the mouth of Queen Charlotte Sound, after colliding with rocks. The ship herself is now a popular dive wreck. Before we finish, let's briefly look at the town of Nelson, which is on the eastern shores of Tasman Bay, the oldest city in the South Island and the second oldest settled city in New Zealand. Established in 1841 and became a city by royal charter in 1858. Nelson was named in honor of British Admiral Horatio Nelson, who defeated both the French and Spanish fleets at the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. Split Apple Rock, known in Maori as Tokangawa, is a captivating geological formation located in Tasman Bay off the northern coast of the South Island of New Zealand. It's one of the region's most iconic and frequently photographed landmarks, particularly popular with visitors to the Abel Tasman National Park. It's made of granite from the Cretaceous period. The split in the rock is a naturally occurring joint within the granite. Joints are common planes of weakness in granite. The prevailing scientific theory suggests that water seeped into an existing crack in the rock. During an ice age, this water froze and expanded, gradually widening the fissure over time until the rock eventually split into two distinct halves. Warariki Beach, located at the very top of the South Island near Cape Farewell, is a truly wild and stunning coastal gem. It's renowned for its raw natural beauty, unique rock formations, and abundant wildlife, making it a favorite for photographers and nature enthusiasts alike. An image of Warariki Beach, showcasing its iconic archway islands, was used as a screen wallpaper for Windows 10, known as MG100. It's the picture many users would see when they first booted up their computer. The image was taken by Steve McCurry, a renowned American photographer. It's worth noting that the image used in Windows 10 was apparently heavily altered from the original photo, with changes to the colors and clouds. Thank you for watching, and please press the like button below if you enjoyed this presentation. The like button is that little thumbs up symbol. We are planning to add many more presentations covering a wide variety of science, history, and other enriching subjects, so please subscribe to our channel by pressing the subscribe button below. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please feel free to make them, and we will do our best to respond. Again, thanks for watching, and please do subscribe.